In 1953, 7 family members were brutally taken out by one of their own, a man who wouldn't even do any time for their deaths. Yet it was just the start of a series of strange murders in this tiny village that would lead to numerous people calling it, perhaps, cursed, and even the actual inspiration for the later Sugisawa village urban legend. But was it really cursed, or was it all nothing more than a coincidence? Let's take a step back. The man referred to in the media only as M was born on November 10th, 1929. M was the 7th child, 3rd son, of Mizuki Fukusaburo and his wife, who ultimately had 7 children together, 3 boys and 4 girls. Fukusaburo was a farmer who owned a lot of land and was thus rather wealthy. Yet it was also said that he was a rather lazy man with a taste for women and drink, and his adventures around town often caused strife within the large family. If anyone ever tried to call him out on this, they would be kicked out of the house, and this included his wife. Fukusaburo's eldest son was set to take over the family business and was reportedly similar in nature to his father. It seemed he also wanted to inherit the entire family fortune to himself, and kicked his younger brothers out of the house so that they wouldn't be able to have any part of it. As a child, M attended a local school and then helped out around the family's apple farm after graduation. Despite the fact his family was wealthy, being born as the youngest son at the time generally meant that he would have to find his own way in the world and wouldn't be able to rely on his family's money. And his older brother made sure of that by kicking him out. In Nina, it was said that roughly 80% of the farming village was rather wealthy, while 20% were incredibly poor. 2nd and 3rd sons who were unable to inherit their family farms made up much of this number, and M was no different. He briefly worked at another family's farm before returning to his own family due to illness. For a period, he worked as an apprentice tub maker, and he was rather skilled at whatever he put his mind to. His older brother described him as a quiet, kind young man, and his reputation around town was much the same. His father often praised him as a good shot, and he took care of his sisters as well, with one of them testifying that he was her favourite sibling overall. At the height of their wealth, Fukusaburo had property worth roughly 100 million yen by today's standards, and he served as head of the local fire brigade as well. There wasn't anyone around town who didn't know of him. But he was a difficult man to live with, to say the least, and his wife testified how he was violent with her numerous times over the course of their marriage, and sometimes frightened her so much that she hid under the eaves of a neighbour's house with her children throughout the night. While he was reportedly never physically violent with the children, it became too much for his wife to bear, and in November 1951, she left to live with her parents, effectively ending the marriage. Around half a year later, in July 1952, M's father and older brother kicked him out of the house with pretty much nothing but the clothes on his back. He moved into a house on the outskirts of town and worked as a tub maker, but he was so poor that he could barely afford to eat. His other siblings were also kicked out of the house, and there were rumours that this was done so that Fukusaburo could remarry. It would be harder to do that with several children hanging around the home. Only his eldest son, the one due to inherit everything, remained. This naturally caused massive discord amongst the siblings who all believed they should inherit at least something of the family's wealth. M and his other brother in particular took an intense dislike towards their eldest brother because he was, in essence, a mini version of their father who also abused them. In October 1953, M tried to rent a room from a relative, but was refused. With nowhere else to go, he took to sleeping in the barn, but rain and cold weather made it a terribly unpleasant experience. He was also unable to cook food there, lest his presence be discovered, so he survived off what little food he received from his job repairing tubs. It was around this time that M reportedly visited a local police officer and asked some strange questions, such as whether he could be prosecuted for stealing if he took something from his parents' house, and what exactly constituted self-defense. There were even rumors going around that M planned to kill everyone in the house and burn it to the ground. This actually wasn't the first time M contemplated killing his father. Back in 1950, his eldest brother reportedly urged him to poison their father. He seriously contemplated this and brought the topic up with his mother, but she managed to talk him down, pointing out that both of their lives would be over if he did such a thing. Without his mother around to stop him, and living a destitute life of poverty, it seemed that M was finally pushed to the brink. On December 11th, M worked hard and then drank hard. By the end of the night, he had drunk roughly 2.5 liters of sake, and it was around midnight when he stumbled home. Before going to bed, he realized that he had no miso left, and so he decided to head to his father's house to steal some. His father's house was only 300 meters from where he was staying, so, with a torch in hand, he snuck into the shed and loaded his jar with miso. It was here that matters took a strange turn. Despite being drunk, M later claimed to retain full, vivid memories of what happened next. A sudden feeling overwhelmed him. He spotted a hunting rifle and a few dozen rounds sitting nearby, and he feared that if his father discovered that he stole some miso, then he would shoot him. As such, he would have to beat him to the punch. He would shoot his father instead. M grabbed the gun, put on the ammo belt, and after 1 a.m. entered the house. He went after his father first as he slept in his bed, killing him instantly. Next was his brother's eldest son, who was also sleeping in the same room. This noise woke the rest of the family and they tried to hide, but it was futile. M then moved on to his brother and his wife in another room, as well as their eldest daughter. M claimed his memories after that were a blur, but he next targeted his grandmother, his father's mother, as she also tried to hide, as well as his aunt, his father's older sister, who tried to flee too. While claiming he originally had no intention of going after his nephew and niece, he was so full of hatred for his brother that he went after them too. All of this, from M sighting the gun to his aunt's death, all took place in less than 2 minutes. After coming back to his senses, M was shocked at what he had done and tossed the rifle away. He was seen by a passerby leaving the house and reportedly told this man that he had just killed his father. The man ran inside to have a look, but it seemed he didn't look very hard because he reportedly didn't see anything amiss, other than a little smoke coming from upstairs, which would be important later, and he then quickly left. M returned home, wrote a confession about how stupid he was, and how he went to his father's house to steal some miso, and then made his way towards another relative's house, where he again confessed that he killed his father. I thought he would shoot me, so I killed him first. He asked this relative to accompany him to the police station, where he would confess everything. On the way there, M told another local they passed about what happened. However, as M was confessing to the police about the murders, it turned out that the family home was also on fire. They were able to put it out, but it seemed that another of M's nieces died in the flames. A servant also lived in the house, whom M originally intended to kill as well, but he was unable to find him. This same servant was injured in the fire, but managed to survive. For a while, there was confusion about how the fire began. Police originally assumed that M himself lit it before running, but reports were conflicting. A former police officer checked the scene after M confessed to a relative and reportedly only found gun smoke, and M was in questioning with police when the fire was discovered. If so, it would have been impossible for him to light it. If not him, then who? Further investigations revealed that it likely was M who started the fire, but unintentionally. The culprit appeared to be a blanket that caught on fire from the gunfire, but took time to build and spread. The passerby who checked the house immediately after M left reported seeing a tiny bit of smoke, and the former police officer who checked after him also saw smoke, but assumed it to be from the gunfire. Thus, it likely was because of M, but it wasn't deliberate. Just a side effect of his spree. As such, the arson case against M was dropped, and he was charged with the 7 killings he admitted to, although not for his niece, who died in the fire and was not found to have been otherwise wounded. M's other brother and his mother were also questioned and initially suspected of being accomplices due to their mutual hatred of his father, but they were found to have solid alibis and thus let go. M was officially indicted on December 29, 1953. He was charged with accessory after the fact, murder, and breaking and entering. Yet his mental state at the time of the crime quickly came into question, and he underwent 4 different psychological examinations. He also slightly changed his statement, at first claiming that when he saw the gun, he thought he would be killed, and so he went into the house to get them first. But later, he changed his statement to, when he saw the gun, he thought he would be killed, and then it was like something overcame him, making him grab it, like he was in a dream state. Next thing he knew, he was standing over his dead father's body with gun in hand. This time around, he flat out denied having any intention of attacking his family. It just happened. At his first trial, held on February 1st, 1954, M denied intending to kill his family. "I held a grudge against my father and brother, but at first I didn't intend to kill them. When I saw the gun, I thought, my father is going to kill me, and so I took it to kill them first." He then claimed to remember shooting his father, despite earlier claims that jumped back and forth, but didn't remember going after anyone else. Throughout the trial, the abuse M suffered from his father and brother was constantly brought up. The incident with his brother trying to convince him to poison their father, only to be stopped by their mother, was also introduced to the court, and 3 judges visited both the crime scene in question and M's squalid living conditions. Family members were also interviewed to shed more light on the type of man Fukusaburo was, and how this affected M. During his psychological evaluations, it was determined that M reacted abnormally to alcohol, and was also potentially epileptic. The heavy abuse he suffered from his father and brother over the years, combined with the mental exhaustion, stress, and amount of alcohol he drank that night, essentially made him unable to make rational decisions, and caused him to act in a primitive, animal-like way. He was not in his right state of mind, and this made it impossible for him to both perceive and judge the situation normally. He was also found to have an IQ of 27, roughly the same as a 10-year-old, and it was revealed that various other members of his extended family also suffered from neurological diseases and seizures. Doctors felt that he was not insane, but at the time of the crime, was in a state close to insanity. The prosecution asked for a life sentence, while the defense argued that M was insane at the time of the crime. On April 5th, 1956, the decision came in. M was found guilty of breaking and entering the storage shed to steal the miso, but not guilty of everything else. The judge pointed out that the various conditions he suffered from, the history of abuse from his family, and the copious amounts of alcohol he drank beforehand made him unable to act rationally. Therefore, he was in a state of insanity. They were also unable to find any evidence that the murders were planned and not a spur-of-the-moment thing caused by his paranoia. He was sentenced to 6 months prison, suspended for 2 years. M had been held for 2 years and 4 months by the time the trial finished, and, upon release, told reporters, "Once I get home, I will immediately visit my family's graves, and I wish to apologize to them." Naturally, many people felt the sentence was far too light, even if he was deemed insane at the time of the crime, and the prosecution appealed. They asked for even more psychiatric evaluations, but again, he was found not guilty due to insanity. the prosecution didn't file any further appeals. At the same time, many villagers actually felt sympathetic to M due to his family history, and they appealed during the trial for him to receive a reduced sentence. One reporter even claimed that the villagers were unanimous in blaming his father for the incident. After the death of Fukusaburo and his eldest son, it was M's other brother who took over the family business and properties. He moved into the family home with his wife, their 3 children, M's mother, and one of their sisters. M got married at 32 and went on to father 3 children of his own. At some point, he tried to apply for a hunting permit, but was denied. As he got older, he then served as the head of the local community association and also as the face of the agricultural cooperative. He lived a long life, dying suddenly in a traffic accident on December 20th, 2001. He was 72 years old. As horrific as this incident was, it oddly wasn't the end for Nina Village. Several more deaths caused by other families against their own relatives then took place after, leading some to call the village cursed. In October 1954, the 3rd son of another farming family tried to get money from his mother, but was refused. The 2nd son chased him away, but he then returned and attempted to stab him. The 2nd son then killed his brother in the resulting scuffle. He was arrested on suspicion of murder, but ultimately released, and the incident classified as self-defense. 1 year later, in October 1955, the 2nd son of yet another farming family also asked his father for money, but just like before, was also refused. The son then attempted to strangle him, but the father fought back. The son died in the struggle, and his father was sentenced to 4 years for the incident due to the circumstances surrounding it. The father was defending himself, and the son was judged to be of poor character. Then in March 1956, the eldest son of another farming family stole some rice seeds to sell for money, and was found out by his mother and younger brother, who then kicked him out of the house. He later returned and attempted to stab his younger brother, but the young man reacted quickly and, in the scuffle, killed his older brother. Again, villagers greatly sympathized with the younger son, and he was charged only with manslaughter. Over a period of just a few years, the sons of various farming families all attempted to kill their own family members. M succeeded, while the others were killed in return. It didn't take long for rumors to spread that Nina Village and its farming families were cursed. It also apparently led to a rather unique, perhaps darkly sarcastic situation in the village where people would threaten relatives they didn't like with murder, due to the fact that most of the killers had gotten light or no sentencing due to the circumstances and sympathies sent their way. Numerous theories were proposed as to why these incidents seem to keep happening. Tohoku has long been considered an old-fashioned and highly spiritual place, with close bonds between families, both immediate and extended. With the tradition of only eldest sons inheriting the family wealth, harsh weather, complicated family ties, busy farming seasons, lack of education, and heavy belief in superstition, some believed these all played a part in why so many incidents happened so close together. Once one happened, they snowballed, and others decided to follow the same lead. It has since been suggested that Nina Village and the series of horrific familial murders that took place there in the 50s also helped shape the Sugisawa village legend that we know today. When the legend first appeared in the early 2000s, it was stated to have happened around 50 years ago. It involved a villager going mad one night and killing everyone else in the village. Talk of said village then became taboo, and it only passed down as whispers and rumours before eventually becoming an urban legend. Of course, none of the farming sons killed their entire village, but it's thought that rumours of what happened during those few years in the early 1950s potentially combined with other stories, such as that of the Tsuyama massacre, in which a young man slaughtered 30 people from his village, to help create the urban legend as we know it today. And interestingly, many families around the Nina village area also have Sugi in their names. But what did you guys think of this one? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.